Welcome to GROGTALK, episode 9. Dan, is it crazy? Episode 9. It just keeps happening. And so I'm sure our listeners see we're a little bit different once again this week because Dan is at GaryCon. So I'm James.
I'm Dan.
I'm Joe.
Hey, so Joe, welcome to the show. Maybe you can introduce yourself.
Well, I am getting into, I guess, first edition D&D. Dan and I used to play back in the 80s, I'm just getting back into it. And he won me over to come in the GaryCon, so here I am, and it's been a blast so far.
Oh, okay. So you guys knew each other from back in the day, then?
Yep.
Yeah.
Long time.
Yep. We when we were in college, we were still playing, and played first edition. I think Joe's taking a longer break than me because your break probably spans more than 30 years, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple intermittent games here and there.
Got it.
Like in New York and stuff like that, but nothing consistent.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, that's great. So maybe we'll start with you, Joe, since this is your first GaryCon. What did you think the convention was going to be like? Maybe you can also tell us about your previous convention experience and how has it been so far? Because we're about halfway through it.
Well, a previous convention experience, I've been to a couple just more like gamer or Comic-Cons type of things in Philadelphia fairly recently. Very different than this. Obviously, I think people here are more just down to business, getting into the games, and there's less of the extraneous stuff like the cosplay and stuff that you would see at Comic-Cons and stuff like that. I think I expected more of that here, and there is some, but people are more just into the actual gaming itself and take that very seriously, which is good in a lot of ways. And so it's definitely less flamboyant if that's the right word.
Joe was disappointed about the lack of cosplay.
Yeah, I thought there'd be more like orcs and stuff running around.
Right. He made the right move, not bringing his orc costume.
Yeah.
Or at least not wearing it.
I have a Witch King of Angmar costume I wore for Halloween 2 years ago. It's really good. And I was like, I'm not doing that.
You should run a game in that next year. That'd be great.
Yeah. In the Witch King.
Joe, are you just a participant, or are you actually hosting a game?
I'm purely playing and observing.
That's not true.
Spectacle.
That's not true.
Well, I'm assisting Dan in his. I'm the enforcer for.
He's saving. Yeah, he's saving me. He's by my side tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
As I run the first game.
If any players get out of line.
Exactly. Right. Dan's the DM. Darn it. That's his role.
It's like, yeah, exactly.
It's page 9 or something on the DMG, right? First thing you should do, the preamble. The DM is the final arbitrator. Shut your pie.
That always sets a good mood for a game at a convention, and that's your first line. Okay. I'll go with your advice and do that.
Yeah, as I said yesterday, that's how we play.
I said yesterday to a player who was trying to argue with the DM when it was to our advantage what the DM was saying. There's 2 things in life that are certain. You don't wake a sleeping kid, and you don't argue with the DM.
Yeah, exactly.
There it is.
Well, some of my folks don't agree with that. They like to argue. They'll argue for a bit, and I'll allow it for somewhat, but I guess nowadays there's more arguing. It's more collaborative. Isn't that the term now, collaborative?
Well, the problem is everyone has the DMG, and they bring it to the table, and
And all these people coming from all over the country play it. Everybody plays it slightly different, right? So the style of the group they play in back home is slightly different than the style of the game they just joined in. Then it's like, they gotta deal with that.
So what games so far halfway in? What has been the highlight? Has there been any things that you were very happy with the games you've done? Maybe you can go over the sessions and how you think they've gone so far.
I've enjoyed myself a lot. The very first thing we did was play Kids on Bikes with Janelle Jaquays. I mispronounced the last name. And that was awesome because it was brand new. Everybody was brand new to it. and it really turned out to be a really wonderful role-playing game. I thought that she ran really well.
Yeah, I agree. And for listeners or watchers out there who aren't familiar with Janelle Jaquay's, Dungeoneer magazine back in the 70s, in the mid-70s, then started worked for Judges Guild, wrote a lot of famous adventures, including Dark Tower, Caverns of Thracia. Dark Tower was the only adventure, the only non-TSR adventure on the list of the top 30 adventures for D&D. So it was a real thrill to be able to game with her. And that was a lot of fun. I agree. Mm-hmm. That was a blast. So.
Yeah, and other than that, I've been in a few. I've just been playing D&D. I think my favorite part of the weekend was I was going to be going down to a game for 5th edition, which I'm not as big as fan of, and just randomly met some dudes in the hallway who were going to play 1st edition in the bar, and did that instead.
So you know now, that, like the person who was waiting for you was probably watching this game.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
And
I'm sure they're watching the show. And
that's where
I'm not all mad at me.
That's where
they're going to track me down.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of fun, just having a cool 1st edition game in the bar. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, in fact, the door is knocking right now. They're outside your door. They're coming in.
Police. The games. What's great about GaryCon is that the dungeon masters and the game masters typically put in a tremendous amount of effort into their games. It's what's made me a bit nervous about running my game. Is they always have props, and if it's a scroll tube appears, and they really go all out. They spend a lot of time prepping for the games, and so the quality of the DMs here is pretty phenomenal. And so I've been really fortunate. All the games I've had really good DMs. So it's been great.
Yeah, last night's game, the guy had very impressive laminated pictures of all the maps and the actual non-player characters that we were going up against, and it was really, really cool. Even every little magic item had its own little laminated card type of thing. So that was a lot of. He obviously went through a lot of work.
I assume they have very understanding significant others. That's what That's what I always get out of it.
So that's a good segue because I don't know if our folks know that, Dan, you actually are running. You're running tomorrow morning. Is that correct? And maybe you can give a little shout to what you're doing, and then kind of segue into what kind of preparation. You said the bar is pretty high there at GaryCon, and so this is your 3rd year, I think. So maybe you can kind of talk about what you're running, how you prepared for it, and maybe when you get back, we can talk about how you felt it went.
Sure. So I'm running tomorrow morning, Sunday at 8 a.m. our time, running an adventure called the Halls of Tizithane, which is an adventure from White Dwarf magazine in 1980. It was written by Albie Fiore, who sadly passed away about 10 years ago. It's probably, along with The Lich Way, it's his best-known adventure. And I'll be running. What I did to prepare for it is, number one, I decided on a 6-hour slot. One of the downsides of convention games is typically the slots are 4 hours. And it's pretty hard to do a lot in 4 hours. And I know people who don't play D&D and role-playing games are stunned by 4 hours seems so long. But as I think we all know, and most of our watchers will know, 4 hours is actually not a long time because players tend to spend time talking amongst themselves, are very cautious. What should we do? So I decided on a 6-hour slot. So I'll see how that goes because I want a little extra time. And that's one of the nice things about GaryCon is, as best I can tell, at GaryCon, if you want to run a game, you can basically pick the amount of time you want. You're not forced into a 4-hour slot. So what I did to prepare for Tizithane is, first, of course, I did research on how to prepare. So to prepare for my game, I did research on how to prepare for a convention game. Everyone was saying is you need to play test your game, and so I had run my group, and you've been through it. I'd run Tizithane for my group, and then I ran 2 play test sessions as well. So I've run Tizithane 3 times now. So that's the most important thing I did to prep it, to get a sense of whether it fit within the time. The other thing I did was I retyped the entire adventure. Because it's about 96 pages of notes. It's a room per page, so it's not all. But I have a big. It doesn't fill up every page. But I have a binder, and only now have I realized that maybe it's too much because sometimes you want it to be shorter. But so that's what I did. I play tested it 3 times. I took notes on everything. You gotta almost always come with pre-generated characters. You don't want people rolling up their characters at the table. That takes way too long, very risky to allow people in their characters because, they'll, of course, bring an amazing character, which is going to screw up your game balance. And so you're generally at a convention game, if you're going to run the game, you're expected to bring pre-generated characters, which takes a lot of time to figure out the balance, what magic items they should have, print them out. I also did backstory on the backside, so that way if the characters want to get into character, so to speak, they can. And I did a map on a poster board of the halls of Tiz and Thane, and so that way map it. They don't need to do what you poor guys had to do, which is just do it from scratch on the graph sheet. And I just tell me when to stop.
This is great.
I'm sure a lot of people want to know. No, this is good because, like you said, one of the examples, the mapping versus, because you have a limited time, even 6 hours, which again, people are like, for God's sakes, I don't want to see anyone for 6 hours. But when you're playing, and if it's a good session, you don't mind it. You've made the decision that to draw out the map beforehand versus, quote unquote, having the players do it. What other so I think those are good tips that people would want to know when you're preparing based on your experience, the difference between running your home game versus a convention game.
Yeah, and I think every game I've had, the DM was doing the mapping. And so, the players were not doing that. That takes way too long. I think that's the main thing. So, I did little tent cards, those you can buy those little tent cards with the names, and you're familiar with this, James, because I do it for the group. I print it out. It's very easy to do. It looks awfully fancy, but it's actually quite easy to do. Print out the character names and have a little picture there, and because usually at these games they're going to ask the players to write the character name and your name and what your class and what your race is on a little card and fold it and put it in front of you. And that's kind of nice because that way then, you haven't gamed these people before. You don't know the pre-gens. You can look around the table and say, oh, well, you're a ranger, or maybe you'll track. So if you're going to run one of these games, you don't need to be real fancy and get the tent card per se, but just bring a pack of index cards and a pen, a couple black pens, permanent markers. Give them to the players so that they can write their names and the players' names and the other information and put them up there. And then, usually at these games, then you get like about 20 minutes or so to look over your characters, figure out your spells. Usually, or at least a lot of the DMs will give out a spell sheet for spellcasters. So I've got that photocopied. Because not everybody, if you're playing a first edition game, not everyone is going to have a first edition player's handbook. You can get them, but they can be expensive on eBay. So not everyone's going to have them and give out a list of spells. I think my strategy for tomorrow actually is to just sort of kind of wing it in a sense. I've done a lot of prep. I was doing a prep with Joe. Joe's nice enough to sit with me, and I think I was trying to read too much and make sure I covered everything. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to be just a little. I've run this thing 3 times. I think I'm just going to sort of go with the flow and not worry about things too much. So we'll see. So that's what I did to prep.
Okay, Joe, are you playing in the game, or are you going to co-DM? Is that what I heard?
I'm the assistant DM, so
okay.
So I'm going to try and keep people on time. Try and just give Dan a little bit of assistance to keep the game flowing.
Yeah, because as you may recall from this adventure, and I don't want to give away too much because there's that watch party. that's happening now. It probably has all of my players.
Exactly.
In it,
all your players
Yeah.
are like it.
They've actually they've taken early flights now. They're actually headed back. They're debating Sunday afternoon. Nah, we'll leave tonight. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And they probably gamed with me, and they're like, wait. Is that the dude who's running our Sunday morning game? Like, this guy knows nothing. so he's a terrible player. So in this adventure, as you may recall, time is important. So I've asked Joe to do some of the, and you've been kind enough to agree to do some of the more mundane things, like actually keep track of time. What time is it? Is it 10 o'clock? Is it noon? And do things.
Yeah, it's important in this adventure.
It is. And there's a wandering monster table, which I know in a convention game maybe you don't want to get used too much. But
that can bog things down.
But you could at least do some rolls and let me know, and then I'll decide whether, I want you to run into that, lich or not. So, so he's going to co-DM it with me.
Do you, so when you prep, and I don't know, do you know who the players are? I mean, you know that people have registered, but do you actually know the people? Can you contact them to prep them, or you just deal with them as they come?
No, so you do. You get here at GaryCon, you get a list of names. Yeah, so I know the names of the people who are going to be in it. So, I could contact them. There is a way to do that. Mm-hmm. And several DMs did do that. I will tell you, I did not do that, and I made the conscious decision not to do it. And the reason being is that I have found that when I get information in advance for a game, to be honest, I don't pay a lot of attention to it. I don't read the background. I know that when I get to the game, I'm going to be given the background again anyway, because the DM, quite understandably, is going to assume there's people like me who don't. So it's a vicious circle, I guess, right? I don't do it because I know they're going to give it to me, and they give it to me because they know I'm not going to read it.
So why do it?
Right? And there's so many games, I'm going to forget the background. So if I read it 2 days before, I'm going to forget, like, what adventure is this again anyway? Who's the baddie? So I personally don't like to get information in advance because I'm not going to read it, and then I'll feel guilty that I didn't read it. Should I have read? Yeah, that's the way I go. And so no, I figured, look, 6 hours, you're at a convention, you've got lots of games. You don't need to do homework for my game. Don't feel like you need to do homework. You just show up. I'll give you half an hour. We got 6 hours. But you certainly can send it out, information, if you want. But I had signed up in the first round, which are gold members, and that makes me nervous because I figure if you're a gold member, you probably know your rules.
Those guys are the super serious people.
Right.
Usually.
Right. So I don't know. We'll see. It is what it is.
But that's my favorite part. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
My favorite part of Dan's adventure is his focus on a weather system.
Yeah, there's a weather system.
This is what I'm looking forward to.
Perfect. I've got the right guy with you. Yeah, I've got 30 days. Because who in a 6-hour convention game doesn't want to know about the weather, right? I mean, so, and I even bought a 30-sided die. This is the only thing which is not going to be genuine retro, because right? So
I was surprised to see a 30 sided. What the hell is that?
I'm gonna go a little new school with that. That's the only thing that's anachronistic. But I've got a 30-sided die to roll for weather. So and what's surprising is, well, never mind, because I don't want to give anything away about the weather. We can talk about the crazy weather rolls next time.
It does play a role in the adventure.
And it actually does. Weather does play a role, so to speak.
So not just being picky.
Well, you're right. I mean, it's interesting. Well, I can't wait to hear the weather blow by blow. Perhaps you could live tweet today's weather.
Tweet the game. That's
you can. Yeah, you can be tweeting Dan, this is going down in flames. Dan is sweating, and I'm laughing. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. You can. Yeah, if you follow at GrogTalk, I'll retweet your posts, Joe, and you can just have it. Yeah, so
do it this game.
Yeah, it'll be good. But that's interesting.
Flight out tonight.
No. You got. You did a great job running that. I mean, I'm not a huge fan. We'll have to do a podcast on nostalgia versus expectations, and some of these modules. If you try to play them as is, if we don't have the context of them, because they're actually predate when I played them. When I started playing in the early '80s, they're even before that. Just even the style of play and what was expected, because Dan will tell us, "Oh, this is in this room." I'm like, what? You've got to be kidding me! We're second level. How is that possible? And one of the ones we ran, I think we were first level, and we were getting limited wish scrolls and whatever, delayed blast fireball, and
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that is correct. There was a wish spell. So
multiple.
Yeah, what was it? Multiple? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
there's a whole case.
You're supposed to use it on the vampire. Come on.
That was that one. There was the Spectre and all kinds. But I think that was interesting that some DMs want to like you said, give homework. And the interesting part about it is for the player, right? You're going to how many sessions? You're doing what, 6 or 7, 8 sessions during the weekend, and at least.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying, I did. I was scheduled to do 16 nonstop hours yesterday. Our last game finished early. I started at 9 a.m. and I finished at 11:30 p.m. with literally no break between games. So I really wanted to do the 16 straight hours, but the game finished early. So yeah. You're playing a lot of games.
Is that like an iron? Can you get an iron butt like the people who ride on motorcycles get that award, most hours in the chair?
Well, they were going to do that, but the lawyers advised against encouraging that. So that got nixed by the lawyers, I hear.
Get the deep thrombosis, like if you're on a flight to Mumbai or something, where your legs collapse. But that's interesting. You go ahead. I'm sorry, Dan. I was just going to say it's. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, the Skype is thanks Microsoft and the internet, but at least it's working. I just think it's interesting. Like I said, I think that's good advice. You're basically both from a player and a DM perspective. I know if I was going to run something like that, I would put a lot of effort and try to get with the players and try to front load that. But to your point, you're going to multiple events. You're not going to spend hours preparing for each of them. You just want to show up and you want to be working. So I think that's good advice for DMs who are going to run a con, because I'm sure, Joe, you've already booked your time to come down in October to come to GrogCon here. This is the whole reason we're doing this. And so I know we're going to put a lot of time in these, but we should be careful not to expect a whole lot from players, because they want to show up and they want to play the game and have it all available and not do, as you said, a bunch of homework. So what other advice, now that you've you're prepared, you've done a couple play tests, you're doing the mapping, you talked about encounters, what about rules? Do you spend a lot of time figuring them out, or do you just going to wing it and rely on the players? What's your strategy when it comes to rule adjudication for tomorrow?
So what I've been doing, I've been cramming a little bit. I mean, as you know, that I prepared a document with about 16 pages summarizing the rules, and I've been reading that to try to remember the rules. The good news is for me is I feel like most of the rules, I know. So in other words, in the first edition games that I've been in, it's been nice that I feel like I've known some things that other people haven't. Like, how long does it take? How long are undead turned for? And the DM's looking in the player's handbook, and I'm like, well, no, it's actually the DMG. You'll find it after the combat table, right? And so it gave me a little bit of confidence. The thing that I struggle with is spells. There's so many spells. And so I think what I'm going to, for a lot of the things that I'm going to have to rely on the players on is spells. Tell me what your spell does, because I'm not going to remember. I'm not like some of these DMs here are pretty amazing, that when I tell them I do this spell, they know exactly what it is. They adjudicate it immediately. I'll be slower with that. I'll be like, okay, tell me what that spell does. I think, one of the things that I'm still debating on are things like armor class adjustment. Nobody uses AC adjustment, but I've got it on the sheets, so I may use AC adjustment. I assume people will groan. I mean, that's not, so some of the things that I think you've got to decide when you're running a game at a convention is which rules are you going to dispense with? Because so many rules, we know things like encumbrance, AC adjustment was modified and not used in games, and initiative. Every game, it seems like, is different on the initiative system. I'm stunned to find out how many people don't use by the book, just party initiative. And I guess that shows that people in general are unhappy with it. I think DMs and players really seem to like individual initiative. So I think that's the kind of things that DMs need to think about. What rules are going to dispense with? What house rules are they going to use?
Yeah, that's right.
So Joey, as a player, you played a long time, and you've coming back into the hobby. As Dan was saying, the different styles. Is there any new rules or way DMs have been running the games or players that you're like, oh, that's interesting, we would have never played it that way? That's, I think, is the big advantage of going to a con. You start seeing the other styles.
What was the thing yesterday that I noticed on my character sheet that was an old rule? I don't remember. But either way, no. Everybody, that's one of the it's one of the cool things in some ways about GaryCon is that you sit down with a bunch of people, and some people know like everything, but then a player will be by your side, be like, oh, I haven't played first edition in like 5 years, and we'll have to kind of refresh their memory a little bit on a lot of things. But there's a lot of stuff it's coming back into it. There's a lot of stuff it's amazing how much stuff comes back to you very quickly.
You're picking up fast.
Yeah, and then also stuff that you were like, I have no memory of ever playing this. Well, maybe we didn't. And that's the thing. It's like it's been interesting. So yeah, no, I think that's always a little bit of investment.
And how many players are typically in on a table? Because that's something that we've been getting used to. Back in the day, we would play with 3 or 4, at most 5, and our games were running 7, 8, 9, 10. So what's been the average for the games you've been in?
So
yeah, I think about anywhere from 5 to 7 players usually. 5 to 6.
Yeah, I've had. Yeah, it's usually 5. I mean, we have one tonight, I think, where it's 10, and Joe's gonna jump in. The DM said he can. It might be 11. And I'm glad you asked that question, because I can tell you. So if you're thinking of running a game at GaryCon, I would recommend that you not have more than 6 players. I'm going to have 6 players tomorrow, assuming everyone shows up. And that's another thing too. I don't mean to digress. Well, I guess I do mean to digress. Is that there's sometimes there'll be no shows. So if a game is filled up, but you really want to be in it, and you've got an open slot, you should wander down and talk to the DM, and there's a good chance there may be a no-show to some of these games. But I can tell you that from a player side, when I'm in a game with 8 players at that convention, like GaryCon, I don't get to participate all that much. What often happens is, if you've got 8 players, there's a good chance that you're going to have 2 players who have very strong personalities.
Sure.
They like to lead. They're the ones talking, and what happens is, if you have a lot of players, it's very easy to then not be able to do a lot. And so I tend not to be a big fan of. And I tell you too, if you have 8 players or more, conventions are noisy.
Yes.
You're at a table with 8 players, and there's tables all around you. It's noisy, and with 8 players spread out, it gets very hard to hear things. And so not only are you not getting to participate as much as you'd want, a lot of times you're like, what happened? Who's that? What's that line? You don't know what's going on. So I would encourage DMs to try to keep it smaller.
Yeah, yesterday we played that game last night, and we got the bathroom break, and we're walking back to the bathroom, and Dan's like, "Can you give me a summary of what's happening?"
Well, that's a different issue, though. That's because I'm slow. I don't pick up stuff a lot orally very well. I'm more of I learn through reading, not through getting it orally.
We went about 7 or 8 people, right? And it was a pretty big table, and it was noisy area. So like when people in the party was doing different things at the same time, I couldn't always hear what the 2 people over there were on about. That's the only negative I've experienced. Sometimes there's like one table who's just, they're raucous, and they're putting up all this noise and stuff like that, and they're like, bellowing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it really it can be a little distracting, but it's a minor complaint.
And if I get some advice for DMs, and again, this is getting stuff from player side. This is not advice from me as being a DM at GaryCon, because I haven't done that yet. Mm-hmm. But is that get all your players involved. So if there's, you're going to have the quiet guys that are sitting there not doing anything. And if players haven't said anything for about an hour into the game, have them come across the concealed door, whatever, right? Or get them involved somehow, because it's very easy to, as you might imagine, at a convention like this, you're going to have some people who have strong personalities, and that's great because, they lead things, and they usually know the rules very well. But you want to make sure that all your players get. It's very easy when you don't know anybody else at the table. Yeah, because this is what's going down. Is you show up, you might be alone, and if you're sort of have a shy personality, you're going to be reluctant to speak anyway. And then if you got a couple people who love to speak, you can kind of get squeezed out. So I encourage DMs to get everyone involved. And I'd like to mention before I forget. This game I was in the kids must have been, one was 11. So a mother shows up with her 2 kids. One was 11, and the sister is a boy, and the sister was probably like 9 or 10. I don't know. Another boy shows up alone who must be like 9. And it's me and this other guy with them. And then I'm like, well, this should be interesting.
Oh, the mom just left them there?
No, the mom was there.
Oh,
the mom stayed. And I got to tell you, so this game was hilarious. This was one of the best games I've ever been in. The kids were so funny. So we captured this goblin, and I'm a ranger, and I learned this thing, right? I mean, we're going to interrogate this goblin, and mom's a paladin, and I'm like, I know she's with me, right? This thing's evil. Nits make lice. We're going to kill this thing. The kids are trying to talk to the goblin, like, why are you evil? Maybe you should be good. And the thief, goblin go. He had tied up the goblin, and the goblin's running away. And, the thief is totally fine with this. And it's just the things they would do. You would think maybe it would be annoying. It was actually wildly entertaining. And I actually thought it was so much fun. I think if we come back, I would want to run a game just for ages 8 to 11, and just see what they do. So I just wanted to mention that was a lot of fun.
That'd be funny.
Yeah, I think that's I'm not saying it's a new thing, but I know I've listened to podcasts where that's what people are doing. They're using it in schools. They're running it at their local libraries, because there's a gap for programming at libraries. And so people are trying to introduce the next generation. And, that kind of runs the gamut. I think we should certainly talk about that in the podcast because, we're 20 years away from people not playing first edition because the people who played it. So if we want people to play older games and or D&D, you've got to get the youngins to play. I mean, I play with two of the 3 of my children when I can, and they're teenagers and above, and I used to play with them when they were young, and it's a lot of fun. You have to change the game a little bit. Certainly some of those 70s modules may not be appropriate for them, at least the ones you've run, Dan. It'd be like, yeah, we don't want to talk about what happened in the room with the trolls or whatever that happened, the one you had. That's not good.
The fornicating trolls.
Right.
Yeah. Yep, the door, and the '70s music, porn music comes. I don't think literally, but there's two trolls fornicating, and I play them as written, and so but no, it was refreshing though to, instead of stressing so much about winning D&D, we just started having a good time, and the DM was great because he was very colorful and did great with the kids, and so we all sort of got into it, and so so that was a lot of fun.
My friend Tim back in Philly sometimes really plays more. He's a librarian in the Philly system, and he runs D&D games for the kids. He does and other games too, but he runs D&D games for kids that are between about those ages, up to 14, I think, actually. But so he loves doing that. I think it's like the creativity of children really comes through in D&D.
Yeah, so I got to do this one little event where the goblin was hurt because so the goblin gets to run away, and I of course throw a spear at the goblin. I'm a ranger. This goblin can't go free. So I throw a spear, and the other party members come up to the goblin, and how is he? Oh, he's not doing too well. And the DM says the goblin needs attention. So the girl says, okay, I wave at the goblin and say, well, he meant medical attention, not just any sort of attention, but it was refreshing.
That's great. Switching, are you guys doing any tournament play, or is it just straight running adventures while you're there?
Yeah,
no tournament.
There.
I don't have much of an interest in tournament. I don't know tournament play scene. I don't like to be. I hate being judged on my D&D abilities. I mean, I work, and I'm judged at work. I don't want to.
Want to have fun.
Yeah, do I really want to feel bad about that? I'm a bad. Look, we know, James. We know I'm not a good D&D player. Oh, Len, let me tell you, I played a thief. I'm checking for traps everywhere. All right, so I've learned my lesson. I'm judged at work. I don't want to be judged playing D&D. So I don't know. Maybe I'm probably too sensitive though.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to come, and this is my first shot, so I wanted to come just play.
But ready? Oh, hold on a second. Okay, but talk about being judged. So I got to show you something. Hang on, I'll be right back. Let me find this. Where?
This is compelling live stream video of Dan just walks out. That's all.
Off screen here.
I'm going off screen. I got to find this. Hold on.
No, but I highly recommend the Kids on Bikes game. It would be a great game to play with your.
Okay,
that's what I plan on doing.
Oh, Kids on Bikes.
Yeah.
I want to run if you come next game.
Yeah, I'm definitely doing it in Philly.
Yeah, it's Kids on Bikes. So kids, people don't know. So Janelle Jaquays is running this Kids on Bikes game. So I wanted to play with Janelle Jaquays. So I signed up. I didn't care what game it was. I wanted to be in it. And so we signed up for this game, Kids on Bike. And it's basically Stranger Things. So you're a bunch of kids, you have your bikes, and you ride around trying to solve this mystery. And she set it in the late '60s in Michigan from her hometown. So, but what you could do if you run a game, so set it in 1981 if that's when you were 12 or whatever, and you get to talk about the music. It's very nostalgic. So you talk about the music that you're enjoying, and so you need your flashlight, and there's no cell phones, and it was a lot of fun. So I was in an adventure by Carlos Leising, who is an absolutely fun DM. He's pretty amazing. James, have noted before how when I came back from one of the GaryCons, when I was DMing, I started giving a lot of descriptions of the combat. The arm is severed and all that kind of stuff. And I got that from Carlos, and I know he's not the only. I think the roll for initiative power, whoever, whatever. I don't know. These other people have done it. Obviously, he's not the only one, but he's particularly good at it. And so I got into his game last night. I was very happy about that. And so you see, I've got his module here, and Joe, I want you to read the inscription in this module and tell everyone what this says. So for those of you who have watched the adventures of Pixie and Glades, I want you to read what the inscription says.
One is very awesome. I'm sure you can't see it on Skype, but it's very awesome handwriting.
It is.
To Dan, most outstanding player. exclamation point. Carlos
Lysing.
I
You hear that?
think Dan might have actually written this.
Did he speak clearly enough? Did everyone get that out there?
Yeah. To Dan.
Right.
Most outstanding player.
No, and you know what I played?
What?
You know what I played.
Oh God, yeah. All right, well we're done. We're done for today. Thanks. That's a gnome illusionist thief, I assume.
You got it. And most outstanding player with a gnome illusionist thief. Okay, but now I got it. Now I got to fess up. Okay, there's some backstory to this. So at the end of the game, he usually picks the most outstanding player, and he said we all did a great job, and he really couldn't decide. So we decided to roll dice. Whoever was highest was good. I'm honest to a fault. So we were going to roll dice. So the guy next to me rolls a 0-0, and you can see this coming. I roll a 0-0.
Wow.
And so we both.
You both got it, both
we both got it signed by him. So
Nice.
yeah, so most outstanding player. So
I thought it was all of them say to a most outstanding player, and it's just blank, and you just fill in your own name. So that's good too. I like that. You actually got a good die roll, Dan. That's impressive. Usually for you playing that doesn't happen for you.
Oh, those white dice? No, yeah, they've been terrible again. Horrible. I brought the white dice. They've been awful. Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure the DMs there, if we ever get any notoriety, they'll be like, "Oh no, we're not worried about your dice, Dan. We know they're terrible."
Yeah.
So it's pretty sad. Some of our highlights of our podcast, a couple of people have commented on the best part was when we had 6 rounds of combat and no one hit.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
That was the highlight.
Neither? Like, not even the...
Oh, yeah, no, it's for those who are fans of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It was like the fight between Xander and, who's the one who had minions? Harmony. Where it's like the slap fight, and they're all missing slow. Yeah, no, that's usually my combat against a goblin.
Yeah, so there are two goblins against Dan's 2 characters. The plan didn't go well, and it looked like it was going to be curtains, but we went round after round of no one hitting. I think they basically needed a 15 or above. So it was like a 1 in 4 chance of hitting, and each of them went rounds and rounds missing.
That was the highlight.
Yeah, we just agreed to quit. Yeah, we just walked away. Yeah.
No, I think at some point I forgot who did it. And then there was the 0 level NPC who helped out, who was the thing there. So yeah,
It's really not necessary to do a recap on this, right? I think we should move on to a different subject, shouldn't we?
Well, yeah. I have the bonus play that I haven't posted yet. I'm gonna post it today with this thing. So we talked about tournament.
What does that say, Joe?
Most outstanding player.
Yeah,
To
okay.
Dan.
Have I told you the story about how I got most outstanding player?
Yeah, I like it. That's very K. That's what makes conventions great. How about, do you see new technology or people, using anything that you wouldn't have expected over the years since you've been going, or something that's kind of novel besides some of the props?
I haven't seen too much. I mean, I saw somebody had a raised whiteboard. So it was on a little stand. And it was interesting. He announced the reason he had the raised whiteboard was because food is served tableside here. You can order tableside. And so it was actually so that way you could eat your food and it wouldn't interfere with the map, which I thought that's dedication. I mean, I guess there is. I mean, I do first edition games, so that tends to be real old school. It's, you don't have a lot of time to do a lot of intricate things, I don't think. Most people here will just have a battle, and that's about it. Minis are not used all that much. They're used a little bit, but just like, where are you? Mm-hmm. It's not as intricate as, okay, you move. What's your movement? You can move 12. Okay, you move. There's really not that. I don't think there's enough time, which is actually refreshing for me because I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like, even though I loved war games, I don't like it when D&D turns into a war game. So I haven't really noticed.
No, not in these type of games. I mean, the wargaming room is really impressive. Like with the real meat props.
Yeah, the miniature wargaming.
I mean, I just I don't play this stuff, but I love going in there and just checking it out because it's like the detail that these people put into it is just unreal. But
and there will be like these special games. So there will be games where the luminaries are running the game, and they're very hard to get into, and they're kind of off on the side, and you just kind of like look in there, and you see like a enormous table, right, with like about 12 people sitting around this table. Yeah, and there's these luminaries are running the game. The great thing about GaryCon, they have things called featured events, and if you get a silver badge, you only get one featured event. And a featured event is typically some name DM is from the game. Like our featured event was Janelle Jacraze, and it was amazing. So I'm really happy I did that one. The great thing about GaryCon is I wouldn't focus too much on featured. You can if you want. I know a lot of people like to meet the luminaries. They get a kick out of that, and obviously I did that with the Jacraze game. But the DMs here are so good generally that if you have no featured events, some of your best games will be games that weren't, you could go to a featured event and it was okay, and you go to a game that's not a featured event, you've never heard of this GM, who is this guy, and it's an amazing game. So I think that's what's nice about it.
It's like going to college, right? You can get that class with that luminary professor. It doesn't necessarily mean the class is going to be good.
Exactly.
So.
All right. Well, I know you guys got a big events coming up, and you've got to get ready for what you start in about an hour or so. Is that correct, or when's your next event?
Yeah, we got a game with that. Now I've got a game today at 10 here in Wisconsin time, which I think we're Central time, aren't we?
Yep.
And Joe's got he's seeing a program on D&D and art.
Yeah, the early art of early D&D. My morning game got canceled. The DM had an issue, so.
Yep. And we've got a game with Vic Dorso, a DM who, of course, has I don't know why I said of course, of course, he's hosted a game here in Orlando for us. Well, all DMs come to Orlando host games, don't they?
Yeah,
for us,
it
is. It's like a pilgrimage. And at 4:00 with Vic Dorso. So shout out to Vic Dorso, a friend of the Grog Guild. So excited to and Vic really enjoys killing characters, so it's really kind of a rivalry thing here that I think we're going to want to be successful with that one, just despite Vic.
Yeah, and he was good enough to let me in despite not having registered for his game.
One more character to kill. That's why he wants you there.
Exactly. That's why I'm a otter. I'm a red shirt.
He looks at you. You're literally a red shirt.
I'm wearing this because I'm a red shirt. I'm from dead within an hour.
Right. So of course he's going to let you into the game. It's like he'll be gone in an hour. Right.
Yeah, the challenge is going to be, does he kill you right away or let you linger? So you think, maybe I'm actually going to survive this session. And then, of course, that was...
It was 4 hours, so maybe we'll...
Oh, that's good.
Well, my character, the cleric, Touche, is... well, I don't want to... His name, because I don't want to say the cleric's name, because you guys all take it the wrong way. He was a cleric, and I gave him a name. No, and you guys all took it the wrong way and twisted the meaning, and it was awful.
Touchy-feely? Was that the thing?
Touchy-feel-good. He's a cleric. He lays on hands.
He does lay on hands.
He's a Catholic.
He's a Catholic cleric.
It's not the way... That's not the way it was meant. Exactly. That's not the way it was meant. And so you guys totally twisted it. But he, as he's captured. He's wearing an apron. I tried to put an apron on to imitate. I was a half-orc to look like a cook. That went nowhere. You got two kinds of DMs, as you know. Those that when you put on the apron and say you want to imitate the orc cook to infiltrate the place, they love it. And the others that they just roll their eyes.
They stare at you with a lion face,
Yeah, and Vic was the latter, not the former. And so I'm somewhere trapped with an apron in this dungeon or whatever. So you don't always die in his adventure. So that's our.
Just get trapped.
So
yeah.
Well, Joe, the art in early D&D will be interesting. If one of our suggestions in our we have a suggestion segment was Art and Arcana. I don't know if Dan talked to you about that book. It's a great book. You may want to pick it up if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, you mentioned it, yeah.
So before we go, why don't we'll, as part of our suggestion segment, why don't each of you kind of give us a suggestion either for the week or, as conventioneers, what is your suggestion when if you are to go to GaryCon next year, what's the top advice or something that you would do so far that you've seen based on your experience?
For me, I just think like I would be a little more prepared with a little more research and up on the rules a little bit, and I think it's really the main thing. Otherwise, I think I've been able to fit right in even as a fairly new to this type of person. Yeah, I mean, I think I could be a little better at recalling some of the rules.
Yeah, and I think my suggestion would be to not believe there's any right way to do a con. So, a lot of the advice that you'll get from a convention is make sure you've got a lot of breaks in between games. Don't overexert yourself. And I think that's probably true for a lot of people. So like in this particular convention, I think the way it's worked out, Joe and I have had probably very different experiences. Mm-hmm. And, maybe that's by choice, maybe it's not. But the reality is you can have fun in many different ways. So Joe has approached it in a way. You've been a more laid back.
I would like to have had a couple more games.
Yeah.
Especially when I got canceled this morning. But so like a little bit less than I would have liked. But I'm definitely any kind of conference I go to, whether it's political or something like this, I try and pace myself a bit.
Yeah, so they often advise you, whoever they is, right? The people who do YouTube videos, and podcasts, they will tell you to pace yourself, don't overexert yourself, take breaks between games. And I think for a lot of people, that's good advice. But I did 14. Did I mention how I did more than 14 straight hours of game without a break? And I was fine with that. I loved it. I mean, I don't know if I could do that for 4 days or 3 days, but I had no problem with it. I had no issue, and I enjoyed it. So, I think approach the convention the way you want to approach it. If you know that you want to squeeze every minute you can out of the convention, this is your one chance to game, because when you go back home, all your friends are doing other stuff, and you have no one to game with. And I think that's true for a lot of people who come to this convention. This is their one time that they're going to be able to game for the year.
Maybe.
And if that's true, and you want to squeeze out a ton of games, you should do that. Go for it. See how it works. But if you also want to just relax, it's like a ski vacation. There's some people that they need every run. If the ski lifts are open, they're skiing. And there's other people who they like to spend a lot of time in the lodge relaxing, and they go out and ski every now and then. So my suggestion would be just approach the convention the way you think you would enjoy the convention. Don't worry so much about what other people are telling you you should do.
Yeah.
And kind of a segue or a follow-on is, how is the evening activities? Have you partaken in that? Does it button up right after the convention, or people partying on or whatever? What kind of post convention shenanigans that you can report upon?
This is definitely a question for you.
Yeah.
Not me. I'm gaming.
The people are just hanging at the bar and just talking about their games for the day and stuff like that. It's been pretty chill. There's a few people who are doing the whole hair of the dog thing. So they'll have their Bloody Mary after being at the bar, closing down the bar, then having their Bloody Mary at the 8 o'clock game. So there's some serious, some hardcore people like that. But for the most part, it's pretty chilled out. You just sort of hang at the bar. Somebody wanders up. You have a little conversation with them about how the con is going, and it's kind of relaxed. It's been nice so far.
Yeah, the only thing I guess I was a little disappointed about is that we came in early on Wednesday because we were going to look for a Wednesday night game. And it seemed to me that most of the people on Wednesday night were catching up with each other. Mm-hmm. They were drinking. They were socializing. And if anyone was there was a few games that we saw. And if anyone was gaming, it was with people that they knew. And so I didn't find a Wednesday night game. So my thought on that is, if you're going to want to play on Wednesday night, you may want to come and have your own game ready to set up and see if you can attract people. Though I have been successful in the past. Last year we found a game. But
I think if you set up a game, people will come. Because I think there's a lot of other people looking for that. And
right, right.
Yeah, it's a kind of a pickup game. Okay, well, that's good advice. Well, I appreciate you guys dialing in and being part of the show, and I wish you guys have a great trip. And you guys are, I know, Dan, it's going to go great. Are you going to pick a best player when you're done? Are you going to sign?
No, I'm glad you. No, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I got to tell you that, and this sort of follows the theme that when I come to a convention, I don't want to be judged. I don't want to feel bad about how I played, So, no, I think that this idea of the best player, it makes, I don't know, being on the player side, it makes me a little, all of us, we were all in this together. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden at the end, there's this idea that someone's going to be singled out as having been than everybody else. And I don't know, maybe it doesn't bother other people.
It's sort of arbitrary, too. I mean, like, what does that mean even?
Yeah.
I think you should pick the worst player.
That would be bad. The worst player,
Let's pick the worst player.
Right. Yeah. Who annoyed you? No.
Yeah, the most annoying player.
No one's annoying. We're just kidding. So, and sometimes some DMs also have the players pick, and you do that while you're standing there. It's like they go to you, they look at you, and they're like, "Who do you think?"
That's weird, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I actually haven't had that happen.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe maybe other people like that. I don't like that. I think it's just, to me, it's like your team. So no, I'm not going to. No, I'm not going to do that.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
All right. Well, great, guys. I wish you the best. And Dan, we'll see you when you get back. And Joe, it's nice meeting you. Hopefully, if you come back next to Woods, you can jump in on one of our games. We'd love to have you, and you can see the shenanigans on our side. So signing off from GrogTalk South, this is James.
This is Dan.
I'm Joe.
Hey, you guys have a great GaryCon, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, James.
Thanks a lot.